most of the state watches the legislative session unfold, just a half mile from the state capitol building, the important work of running Hartford happens at City Hall. Majority Leader T.J. Clarke of the City Council joins the Municipal Voice to talk about what priorities are in the capital city and how they might differ from those at the Capitol building. We'd like to thank our premier sponsor, Digital Back Office Palo Alto Networks. Check them out at digitalbackoffice.com or paloaltonetworks.com. The Municipal Voice is the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities podcast in collaboration with WNHH LP 103.5 FM. I'm your host, Matt Ford. As always, be sure to give us a like and let us know what you're thinking in the comments. CCM's Municipal Voice podcast continues to present a key forum on important state and local issues. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the consensus views of CCM or member municipal leaders. Councilman Clarke, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Matt. I look forward to speaking with you, and thank you for the invite.
So with Connecticut's 169 towns, there's a lot of history behind all of them and different kind of structures for government. New Haven, we have Board of Aldermen, a lot of towns have boards of selectmen, and you are on the city council. How does a city council work in Hartford, and what does a councilman do on that board?
The city of Hartford operates under a strong mayor form of government, and so the council is the legislative branch of the city of Hartford. Before the charter was changed, the council, there was a strong mayor and city manager form of government where the council ran the day-to-day operations and the city manager reported to the council. So the mayor runs the day-to-day operations, and so the council's sole responsibility is being the policy, creating policy for the city of Hartford. So any type of legislative issues that the mayor seeks to enact by way of an ordinance, the council has to approve it. His department head nominations have to come to the council for approval. Also, too, regarding the budget is more so the council's main responsibility, and so that's where most of our powers are invoked in our charter. So it is our responsibility to, once the mayor presents his proposed budget, we go through it, we dissect it, we are able to shift some things around. We cannot increase what he has already placed on the table, but again, we can shift some things around, take from one area and provide to another, as long as it's balanced. And then we present it back to the mayor. If he does not have any issues with it, it becomes adopted after we provide our final vote.
Speaking of the budget, I know the states in the legislative session, the governor presented the budget for the state. Where is Hartford in their budgeting process?
We have not begun yet. The mayor is supposed to be providing us today with his State of the City address at 5 o'clock. Hopefully, he will give us a snippet of what he's going to be looking to provide to us to the budget. In the budget, he is, per our charter, supposed to be providing us the mayor's recommended budget for the next fiscal year, the third Monday in April. And so we still have some time left to see, to have some conversations as to what it may look like. But we are under our 5-year reval process. So we're still looking to see what that's going to look like. There has been some talks whether if we are going to be provided with the tools to delay our reval for another year, but we have not. We don't know where those conversations are yet, but we're looking to still see how we can go through that process. In addition to that, there have been talks about maybe decreasing our mill rate, so we still have to see what that looks like. Yeah.
You said you're looking to maybe get a little bit more time on the reval. Did the pandemic affect some of your work and put you guys behind on some stuff, or how has it been dealing with that?
Not just that, really just being sensitive to what's going on. You talked about the pandemic. So yeah, there are people still reeling out of the pandemic. There are a lot of residents that have not bounced back as far as either employment or as far as business, whether you're a small business owner or you are one of the major players, business operators in Hartford that's still trying to find out, how badly you were affected by COVID. So a lot of the increases are coming on your multifamily housing units. And so we were going through the process for people doing the appeals assessments to our appeals board. So we don't know what that looks like. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to go through the court system. So all that is being taken into consideration.
Awful lot to think about. And so I know you said you're waiting kind of on the mayor for his budget, but there's certainly some things that the council has been talking about, thinking about. One of those things that I've heard you've been looking at is maybe divesting from Russian assets. What kind of impact does that have for your city, and what does it say to the large Ukrainian population that call Connecticut home?
Good question. Having spoken with the treasurer, I know that that's something that has already been on his radar. I believe that there was a reference to speaking with the treasurer in the Hartford Courant. And my conversations with him, that's something that he's not, I believe he's not totally sure if the pension fund actually invests in any type of Russian stock. His points were he believes that there is none, but they were doing their due diligence to go check to see if they are, and if that happens to be so, then himself along with his team and the pension fund will be able to pension commission, will be taken to look at how to take the necessary measures to divest from that. I know he's already been in conversation with State Treasurer Wooden about that as well. So they both are working together to make sure that all of the assets are protected and no assets, no funds that are being invested into things of that sort on behalf of the city of Hartford.
Great. So it sounds like it's probably not a problem, but it's better to check and make sure and show support.
Yes, it's better to be safe than sorry.
Another thing that changed recently is the council changed Columbus Day holiday to Indigenous Peoples Day. Why did you see this as an important step, and how do you plan to move forward in learning about Connecticut's history and its indigenous populations?
Yeah, that was something that we started looking at things on how to do things a new way and really be all inclusive of people's race, ethnicity, and culture. And given the symbolism, and I think some of my colleagues that introduced that, we're trying to be sensitive to the Italian heritage, but also more sensitive to the indigenous people that were affected by way of the history of this country. And I know we've gone back and forth as to trying to understand what the whole history was with the foundation and makeup of this country. And so we thought that it would be prudent upon ourselves, given where we are in time and being culturally sensitive, inappropriate to make that change. But there's been there was a Columbus Day task force as well that was convened to take a look at how to make all things relative to Columbus more inclusive of people. So I believe that is still continuing to happen and have going about having a conversation with that. But again, we thought that it was time to really address some of these long-standing systemic issues on how it's been affected people in this city and how we actually can be more sensitive to those.
Yeah, I think it's been a growing issue around the country, certainly not even just in Hartford, but I know in New Haven there were some issues around a statue of Columbus in Worcester Square. There was some controversy over trying to remove. Another topic that's important to our members is, and Connecticut as a whole really, is expanding high-speed internet. You were quoted as saying that it's been due for over a decade. Can you describe some of the challenges that come in moving on high-speed internet in Connecticut?
You know, this to me, this is something that we should not be having a conversation on March 14th, 2022, because of how technology has evolved in our country, but we are still experiencing technological issues in some of our heaviest impacted communities that have businesses that serve people. They may not have transportation to get out to the suburbs to take advantage of some of those other local grocers. And so these are we're talking about residents and also to business owners that continue to be impacted by the technological woes in our city, which either don't have high-speed internet or has a low, I would say metrics. I don't think that is the proper technological term, but low speed in areas where it's needed. And as things are advancing, education is advancing, businesses are advancing, healthcare is advancing, and you need the software and the tools to be able to keep up with what's going on. And so when I say this has been a decade old, I think it's been a decade plus some years, as well as the businesses along the Main Street corridor, which is really some of the most traveled streets in our city of Hartford, that has a diverse population of people and businesses that continue to be impacted. And there has been no way that they have been able to really keep up with the business culture and not having access to high-speed internet. And we've had a number of um, quotes that have been provided as to how much it was going to cost, and it was the cost that was going to be absorbed by our business owners, which is very, it's crazy. And so I'm glad that we were able to work. We heard a lot of the cries of the business owners over the course of time that were continuing to be impacted, and how we were able to really come to some terms of agreement and to create the infrastructure that now business owners, and residents will be able to take advantage of. And I believe in our last budget, which is the budget that we're currently operating, there has been some money set aside along in our capital improvement plan to really have high-speed internet across the entire city of Hartford. There was a time where there was internet access, Wi-Fi access for free for residents, and that has gone away over the course of time. But that is something that we have been lobbying for, to make sure that our children, our vulnerable population, as well as every resident, has the ability to take advantage of, because the rates continue to go up. As we're experiencing now, inflation is on the rise, and inflation is infecting every working family that lives here in the city of Hartford, plus those that are living on a fixed income. And so these are the things that we can do, I believe, within our powers to make the quality of life more efficient and more better for our residents.
Something that people might not be as familiar with as high-speed internet, a little bit more interesting, maybe issue unknown to some people, is the concept of universal basic income, which is something that the council has looked at. Can you tell us a little bit about what universal basic income is and why it might be beneficial to a city like Hartford?
This is something I know that has been a concept that was developed from the state of California. One of the counties, I cannot remember exactly what county that was, but I know they worked with a nonprofit organization to identify single women with children, and to be able to give them a stipend to help them along the way get themselves up from where they are, and to provide everybody, I think, would welcome an extra $500 on a monthly basis to provide for their children and to help out with rent and other utilities. So that concept came over here to the city of Hartford, and I know that they are. This is something that was been spearheaded by city council president, and so we're still working through that. There has been a universal basic income task force that has been convened. There have been members of the education academia community from UConn that are part of this task force. And I know the city of Hartford just was in receipt of $100,000 from the Hartford Foundation as a starter, which is going to, I believe, take care of some administrative costs. And to date, I believe that we are still trying to figure out how the program is going to work and who is going to be identified as persons to be in receipt of these funds. So it's still a work in progress, but I believe this is a good way to be able to help lift the burden off of many of our residents who continue to be affected by various socioeconomic factors that are presented to them. And again, as I said, I think those who are the heavily impacted deserves assistance. And I think any working family will understand how crucial it is that additional monies provided to them will be able to help lift the burden and provide more so relief to the families that are continuing to struggle in our city.
Something else that I know has been discussed at the city council recently, there was a pilot program for red light cameras. This is a touchy subject for some people. What would be the utility of these cameras in Hartford specifically?
That's still to be determined. I think it's mixed support, although there was unanimous support to create a red light camera task force, which I believe on our council's agenda for today. The task force has been announced, and names are submitted for confirmation to be on this task force. But as you have said, it's been a touchy subject. We have spoken with the police department as to where these cameras will look, if the state will have access to it, what particular intersections, where will these cameras be placed? Will they be placed on a pole? Will they be placed on a traffic light above the traffic lights? Will they be placed on stop signs? Because there actually have been conversations about stop sign cameras as well. And when you're taking a look at the vehicular accidents, rather, I think there are more those that are running stop signs versus running red lights. And I know that NAACP has been, and also to the ACLU, has been adamantly against the state passing the law for these red light cameras. And I know that there's been conversation about pilot programs regarding this, and how, it's been said that these cameras are going to be set up to disproportionately impact people of color in neighborhoods where they have issues with socioeconomic status. And so that's something that, is still in consideration and still in talks with. I know that there was a bill introduced in the last General Assembly session that actually died. And so I personally have not been a fan of this resolution. However, I do welcome talks as to with the task force to see where their heads are at, and to see if there can be some type of game plan that can be put together to find issues to stop these traffic violations.
So it sounds like the only thing there's really consensus on with, as far as the camera goes, is that you need to talk about it more and do some research.
Yeah, my thing is, my practice has been, we understand what the issue is, but let's get all the facts together. If we're going to install these cameras, where are they going to be installed? Who's going to pay for these cameras? And as far as the revenue, when the fines are collected, who's going to receive the fines? Are the fines going to go to the state of Connecticut as any other infraction fines? Or is the state going to allow municipalities like Hartford to receive the full cost, a full revenue of the fines, or percentage? And so these are the questions that have been asked that have not been answered yet. And so we need to really dig into a lot of these facts before, to me, we can produce a product that we can give to the people.
Even the most well-intentioned ideas can have unintended consequences. So it's
Absolutely
better to do your research. You are listening to the Municipal Voice on WNHH 103.5 FM. Connecticut overall financially right now is in a pretty good position. Our rainy day fund is doing pretty well right now. How do you feel about where Hartford is as a city right now?
We are surprisingly doing well as far as a surplus, and I have questions as to how does this happen. And I've been able to say that, our revenue tax collection rate has been really better than what we had expected. And obviously working through COVID, and, some credit to the federal government for assistance that we have been able to have. So I believe have been financially in a good place versus when I first started on council, when we were faced with the threat of bankruptcy. And so we have really done a complete turnaround as far as our finances. And that's credit to, the council at that time, the council now, and the mayor's administration and his team, and the treasurer's office working collaboratively to put Hartford on a sound fiscal footing. But there's still work to be done. There are a lot of infrastructure projects that we need to develop, we need to implement. It's a lot of economic development projects that we need to put shovels into the ground for the sustainability of our neighborhoods that have not experienced economic development in quite some time. And so I'm really thankful for what we have as far as stored up in our rainy day fund. But I believe that there's now it causes time for us to think and to strategize on as to how Hartford is going to look for the next 5 years. I've always been a fan of development for downtown, because I think that our downtown is the is the nucleus to the sustainability of our city, but we cannot neglect our neighborhoods. And there are people who live in our neighborhoods that will probably never travel downtown, but we need to put the same amount of energy as we put in downtown into our neighborhoods, so we can be able to develop a more sustainable economic development strategy in our neighborhoods. And that's not just with economic development, but that's with housing, that's with education, and also too, that's with dealing with public health. Yeah. So we have a ways to go, but we have made so much progress.
Well, it's good to hear. You mentioned briefly federal funds. Has the American Rescue Plan, have those funds been important to the city over the last couple of years?
Yes, they have, and I think the majority. I don't want to say the majority. I don't want to misspeak, but a lot of funds have been provided to community partners from our Department of Families, Children, Youth, and Recreation. Last summer, we were able to provide a lot of funding to community partners, for health-related events, I believe, sports camps and things of that nature. That was the first round. There's a second round that was announced, and I believe RPs were out to community partners as to how they plan to partner with the city to implement various youth programs for our youth. And so that's moving along. And I believe, we've used some other rescue fund plans for, I believe, planning processes. But I just cannot wait until we put the shovels in the ground for the economic development plans that we have, discussed because it's time. And, the time also is, I would say, not too much on our side because the federal government has given us a deadline when to, if not spend the money, put plans in of intentions on how to spend this money. So there's still some things that we need to do.
Yeah, it wasn't just a blank check they handed over.
Right.
In your time on the council, there's been some big projects in Hartford, Dunkin' Donuts Park, the Parkville Market are some big ones. What do you think has been, in your opinion, one of the most important projects that you've been involved with, one you're most proud of?
Dunkin' Donuts Park, that took some work, although I did not sit on the council that actually approved the Dunkin' Donuts Park project, but I was on part of the council that worked with the mayor to save the project and to for it to be what it is today. Parkville Market was something too that was gladly to support, but I've been looking at really. And I hope that we can get this done, is the redevelopment of Main Street, the reimagining of, we've reimagined Albany Avenue with the streetscape that some of my colleagues, one particular person on the council, Councilwoman Shirley Surgeon, has worked with many members of the community for the past 30 years to get the Albany Avenue streetscape project done. Albany Avenue also too had its facade program, and I was glad to be a part of that. Still working with members of the community to get the Albany Woodland project completed, as well as looking forward to bringing a grocery store into the Main Street corridor where those businesses have been impacted by the lack of internet infrastructure. So hopefully we can get a deal done to bring a grocery store to the residents of that area, because there are still pockets of the city of Hartford that I would consider food deserts, and we need to really look at how we increase access to quality and wholesome foods. And I'm thankful for partners of Knox and other community groups that have these the food gardens where local community members can go and plant seeds to grow their fruits and vegetables. But I think that we need to take a look at how we actually can have a sound structure to create more access to quality foods.
A lot of important issues there. And the Albany Avenue project sounds interesting. I think Albany Avenue kind of serves as a gateway in a lot of ways for people coming in from out of town. That's one of the main routes into Hartford.
Yes.
So it's like a welcome to Hartford sort of.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then at the tip of Albany Avenue, you have the redevelopment of the Westbrook Village, which is the Hartford Housing Authority. That's still going underway. So that's another gateway coming from West Hartford. And matter of fact, Bloomfield, that says, welcome to Hartford. So that's a big project that I've been able to help navigate through. And so I'm glad that we have been able to work together collaboratively to make these things happen in our city.
Yeah. Is that one of those projects where there was the older state buildings there that were kind of brick and not attractive, and they're redoing them to make them look more modern and nice? And yeah.
Absolutely. So it was a 100% complete demolition, and then they are building the structure from scratch. And so it's been great to see.
Yeah, it's some great.
And it's an uplift for the neighborhood.
When they're done, they've done some in New Haven here that when they're done, they look great. They really do. I'm sure Hartford, like any other city in America, wants to stoke positive growth. But your density means that a lot of places in Hartford are already built up. There's not a lot of just open land going on. Brainerd Airport is currently in the process of being decommissioned. What does the council imagine could be done in the future with that land?
That's another hot topic.
I don't want to get you in trouble with anybody.
No, and those conversations continue to happen, and because of that, and there are various, I would say, various mindsets of what they would like to see. Some would like to see the airport remain and provide services to young girls and boys of color to train them on how to be pilots, because there are not a lot of Black pilots, Hispanic pilots, minority pilots that fly for our major airlines. And wouldn't be great if I have two sons, my sons would be able to fly in a plane when we travel, to see a pilot that looks like him. Whether it looks like their father or looks like their mother. And then there are those that want to see the airport closed because of the lack of economic value they feel that it has, and how it can be redeveloped into a housing complex. But there's other people who say, well, let's pause and take a look at what are the environmental factors that poses a public health risk to our residents. And so I said, let's take a look at this. So I introduced a resolution that actually calls for, before we start to get full throttle into the process of putting plans together, which we still need state and federal government authority and approval to decommission this airport and redevelop it, because there's a price tag that the city, as I was told, that would need to pay back this. Well, the state of Connecticut would need to pay back the federal government. Let's take a look at what these environmental factors are, and let's do an environmental remediation study. And so we are working with the state of Connecticut. We had some conversations with the House Speaker to see if we can be able to get some financial help to do this environmental study. So those conversations are still going on. And as I said, that there's various mindsets on both sides as to how they feel that this site should be, whether to keep it as an airport or close it down altogether. So it's a tassel right now, and so we just have
a lot of big issues. It's something I think, that kind of size doesn't open up that often, so you want to make sure you get it right when it does. Certainly,
right.
Looking towards the future, are you optimistic about the future of Hartford?
I am absolutely, without equivocation, optimistic about the future of the city of Hartford. As I said, when I came on this council, we were faced with the threat of bankruptcy. And having worked diligently with my colleagues and the mayor and the treasurer and the state delegation and the governor's office at that time, Governor Malloy was in office, to really turn some things around for Hartford to be where it is now. Hartford is filled with so much promise. Our education system, I believe, is still on the rise. We've got economic development, people wanting to invest into Hartford at a rate that we have not seen before. And I know that we've kind of hit a bump in the road with the pandemic, but we are still navigating through. And so when people continue to discredit Hartford and dismiss Hartford and say Hartford cannot get out of its way, I beg to differ, because we know how to work together to make Hartford a more livable and sustainable city. People still love to come into Hartford to either see a baseball game, go see a soccer game, go see a football game, dine in one of our fine restaurants, whether it's downtown or in our neighborhoods. And so there's so much more that Hartford has to offer. And it's a great place to live. It's a great place to work, and it's a great place to get into the cultural affairs aspect of all that Hartford has.
I agree. I love visiting our capital city. Well, Councilman Clarke, thank you for speaking with us today. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Matt, I thank you for the opportunity, and please, if there's another opportunity, just please let me know, and I'll be on the next show.
We'd like to thank our guest, Councilmember TJ Clarke. I'd like to thank our premier sponsors, Digital Back Office, Palo Alto Networks. who you can check out at digitalbackoffice.com and paloaltonetworks.com. The Municipal Voice is a co-production by CCM and WNHH 103.5 FM. Kevin Maloney is our executive producer, Christopher Gilson is our producer, Harry Draws is on the boards, and I'm Matt Ford, your host. Be sure to check out our Facebook page and give us a like, and watch out for our CCM chat series on our YouTube page.